Who are the best teams in Dokkan Battle? How's it, everybody? Celtic Link here. We're back for another Dokkan Battle video. That's right, it is that time again. It is that time of year where we do another Celtic Links tier list. Usually at this time of year, we go ahead and we rank the top 10 LRs in the game, because in a post-worldwide download celebration time of year, we have a pretty good understanding of where that ranking should be. But more and more this year, I'm finding that ranking harder and harder to place, mostly because, one, almost every unit released this year, especially in the LR category, once you begin to include EZAs, are in question for the top 10, right? It just, the list is so bulky. Every unit is so powerful, doing so many different things for their team, and without a consistent way for the community to agree on grading said units, I find it hard to place the units in any sort of top 10 structure, especially when you also consider most of these units all serve different functions within their team, and it's really hard to grade a support unit against an offensive unit and then be like, hey, this one's better than. It just doesn't work, right? So instead, what we're going to look at here is what are the best teams currently in this post-worldwide download celebration era, and that I feel like it's a bit easier to grade because, right, you can look at consistent win-loss ratios, you can look at what teams have access to. So one of the main things I'm going to look at when grading these is, number one, how easily can the team clear the most difficult content in the game? Number two, I'm going to look at what units the team has access to, right, specifically through its leader. And then we're going to kind of talk about, right, support, right? That's kind of my third factor. What support units does the team have access to? Because that is a huge factor in a team's viability, right? A team can power through a lot of events, but sometimes that support is needed. And a lot of times I find that, teams without support struggle a bit more than teams that do have it. So I'm going to give my ranking here, but in this video, I'm also going to tackle your guys' ranking. I asked on our YouTube community and on Twitter to tell us what you guys think are hands down the best teams, and include an explanation of why you think there's the best, what makes them worse, what are the shortcomings, and how do you counterplay those shortcomings. So we got quite a few responses from each of you guys, and so we're going to take a look at those. But first, we're going to go over my ranking. I'll give my explanation for each one as we do so. So first up, let's start with the D tier, right? I'm going to go, actually, let's change this to Z tier because it's Dragon Ball Z, right? So we're going to go all the way up to, from D to Z tier. I don't like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rankings because the reality is all of these teams are top teams. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 doesn't really work. It's just more ranking within that. Say, let's just say all of these are top 1 teams. Within that top 1, how good are these teams? So let's start with the last one, right? D tier. D tier, I would place the Majin Power team under Int Buu right now. I know what you're saying. Well, he doesn't lead Majin Power, but the reality is his leader skill sort of lends itself to a variation of Majin Power or Majin Buu Saga. I mean, yes, you do have Resurrected Warriors, which has a few big hitters, but they're not really going to be run on his team, as well as having sworn enemies. And again, really the focus team I want to use for this ranking is specifically the Majin Power variant, and that's because of what it has access to, right? Buu's Majin Power / Majin Buu Saga team has things like Tech Buu, right? It has things like, LR Buuhan. It has things like Super Easy A Kid Buu. All of these are considered great units. Top TURs and within the top 20 LRs of their class now. So to me, that makes the team itself already pretty good, the units it has access to. Now consider, right, their ranking. So the reason I place this team at the bottom of the list is, number one, the team doesn't die. Like, it's really hard to make the team die, even in the hardest fights. This team will get you through the hardest fights. Boo doesn't, right? Boo doesn't die, because when he does, he revives, and then he's invincible after that, right? Because you can just keep stacking defense. Buhan takes a bit of time to get going, but once he does, he's a great asset to the team. A lot of attack power. He's got an action cancel. He's got guard. He's got dodge. Super easy A Kid Boo, sending the stats of the team through the roof. Tech Exchange Boo doesn't die. He takes even some of the hardest hits in the game. It's a good team, and it will go far for you. My main reason for putting it so low is that while yes, the team doesn't die, it is an extremely slow team. When you're using this team, you're preparing for 20 turn battles, because the team is very, very slow. The exchange on that is, right, again, it doesn't die. It's even if it's coming close, you have units that are healing the team up after the turn, during the turn. You have Boo's active, which grants you an usher, which then also gets you pretty darn near a full heal. The team is good, right? I would say one of the biggest shortcomings of the team is the damage, right? With fights like Goku Frieza having a damage barrier, unless you really take it slow, you're gonna run into some issues hitting the breaking damage barrier for things like Goku Frieza. But then once you do, the team is fine, and Buhan can break that barrier, even though they are STR, as long as you let him stack. And the team leads itself to you being able to do that. It just takes the time and the willingness to put in to do it. So that's the only reason I put it so slow. Put it there is just because of the slowness of the team. Otherwise, I think it is a top viable team. Moving on to the next tier of teams here, right? So above them, actually, I mean, funny enough, is the next Golden Week team, and that is the Super Saiyan 3 Goku team. Again, I want to point out, I did mention this is purely my opinion. Feel free to share yours down below, but this is just my thoughts on where I would personally rank all of these. So Goku's team, right? Looking at the units it has access to, the reason I put Super Saiyan 3 Goku's team here is mostly because of its access to the accelerated battle category, and now even more so with Otherworld Warriors having access to LR Tech Gogeta. The team is incredibly powerful, right? It's got Majin Buu Saga units, right? So you're going to have units like LR Ultimate Gohan, who is really good. You have STR Gohan. You have the Z Duo. You have, on the accelerated battle side to throw into there, AGL UI, Tech UI. You have, I mean, funny enough, Janemba, although I don't know if you're running him on that team, but he is there. Right? You have Kefla, you have a few other decent TURs that work well on the team. I mean, this guy, just for his standby alone, I know he's not the greatest unit, but his standby can come in clutch. And honestly, his team, right, utilizing the likes of UIs, the UIs and a few others, right, the Tech Gogeta, his team actually is one of the best teams for taking down the new Janemba stage. And because it's a team that's very focused on taking down short fights, so I would definitely place them here at the C tier. Above, I place them above Boo's team, if only because the team works faster and has much heavier hitters. It also has access to the one thing it has access to a few support units on the Majin Buu Saga side, but it doesn't have access to much else aside from that, and that's one of the main reasons they're ranked so low. And it's kind of the same reason I'm putting Buu so low. Like, Boo's support on his team, you have the general support of Kid Buu, which this team also has because he does lead Majin Buu Saga, but their support isn't. Kid Buu isn't as universal as you would like him to be, right? He really focuses on variations of teams that have some more Majin power units, and that's the thing with this team, is it doesn't have, neither one of these have much access to it. Okay, so moving on to the B tier. That is, I placed this just above this, if only because of, right, a lot. You're going to see a bit of overlap here, and honestly, I wouldn't argue with you if you just put him on the same level as another team that I'm going to place later, but Tech Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta, or Super Saiyan 3, Tech Super Saiyan Vegeta's team, right? The Vegeta's family / Super Saiyans. And for this one, it's mostly the access to Super Saiyans, right? Him being Super Saiyans gives him access to the Brats. It gives him access to Gohan. It gives him access to the trio. It gives him access to our GOAT Super Trunks. There's so many units that fall under his leader skill, and for that effect, right, you could throw the Int trio under here too, right, for this variation, and that's simply, I'm talking about the Super Saiyans. There's some Vegeta's family that sticks in there, which I would throw in there for Tech Vegeta, right? Tech Vegeta having access to Super Saiyan Blue evolution really helps him, because, right, it gives his team a much needed revive, right? When we were on Global, when this guy dropped, we didn't have that, right? So that was one of the major shortcomings of his team, was not having access to a good revive. You did have Birdku, but at that point he was showing major signs of aging, right? So having access to a revive through Blue Evolution, really, really helpful. He also has some stellar support units, right? And now with the new Vegeta here and the King Vegeta combo, you actually clear through some fights pretty darn quickly, with the team, right? The stacking that's happening, everything that's going on. The team is incredibly powerful on the Vegeta's family side of things. Combine that with the Super Saiyan side of things, having access to Gogeta and whatnot. Tech Vegeta his team is going to clear just about every content, no matter what variation you build on it. Again, its only shortcoming is probably the lack of access to a revive. Your only option is really Super Saiyan Blue Evolution Vegeta, which isn't a bad thing, but his revive can be hit or miss, right? He has to get 5 hits before you can activate it, which sometimes can be difficult depending on your setup. So that's why I placed them there. And then again, below, kind of the same reason as 3, right? The support units that the team does have access to, Asai is a little bit better, but it's still, right? Like his main support unit, King Vegeta, not really supporting anyone other than really Vegeta's family and Pure Saiyans, but he does have access to the trio, all right, and we know the kind of crazy support the trio provides, and so that's why I would personally place him above the other two. So now we're gonna get into the A tier, which is a funny tier because, I don't really, there's an argument for basically the next 6 teams I'm going to throw up here. I mean, they're interchangeable to a degree. So let's start with 1, okay? Let's start with this guy here, Jiren. So full power in Jiren, right? He has his Universal 11 lead, but he also leads Universal Survival Saga, right? Universal Survival Saga, the reason I'm placing his team here is, right, access to Jiren's support unit does really, really good things for the team, but the variation of the team is incredibly good, but you're basically running reps of Universe 7 anyways, because there aren't many other there aren't many other general Universal Survival Saga units that you throw in here, right? Dispo's good, right? You have Tech Jiren, and you have Kefla, but introducing those units to Jiren's team adds a major, adds a few lost conditions, right? Jiren can get caught easy, the Tech, he can survive most things, but he can get caught. Obviously, having access to Topo, right? Topo having his own issues aside. And then same with Dispo, right? He's dodge or die. But once he starts dodging, he's good to go. So, I mean, Jiren with his variations, you're still running mostly reps of Universe 7. So that's why I can't really put him at the top, but he's still pretty good. The support he offers, right? That's one of the main reasons I'm placing him so high. is due to the support he's offering to the team combined with the support of the rest of the team. It kind of does a lot for the Reps of Universe 7 / Universal Survival Saga team. Otherwise, I think the next team that's probably alongside them is probably the Tech Broly's team, right? Movie bosses, strictly movie bosses, right? Movie bosses is now an insanely powerful category, right? You have the Tech Broly, you have Janemba, you have the Broly Trio, you have AGL Broly, you have the new In Broly, you have Cell Max, right? You have Turles, right? If you're running the Planetary Destruction variant, you have this guy. You have quite a lot of good options, even some pretty decent TUR options, right? For the TURs, right? I mean, the Tech Bio Broly is decent. He's not terrible. This dude's coming up on an easy A, but you have access to the super easy A for the STR Broly, right? Strictly movie bosses, right? Depending on the variant you run, you're gonna see the same results. It's incredibly powerful. Double Broly, right? The reason I'm putting this here is because of the double Tech Broly, right? Double Tech Broly means you have 2 rotations of an incredibly powerful unit that just melts bosses' HP. Obviously, his condition, having only 3 turns of guard means you have to plan for other slot 1s to start moving in, but there are options to make that work in your favor, and again, letting Broly build up and letting him do what he needs to do really helps the team. But there are better variations, and his team itself does have a few loss conditions, right? Again, if you let his guard expire, right? Tech, not you, where is it, right? Tech LR Broly, like if he gets hit with a super, probably gonna die, although he'll probably kill before that happens, but hey, things happen. Cell Max not having access to a lot of what he needs to work, right? Full movie bosses, he can work, but he really wants those super bosses and artificial life forms around, right? Having Bio Broly now helps that, but it's only 1 rotation, right? You're probably not running 2 of these, so, and it can work. So it's the reason I don't place Tech Broly's team at the top, is just simply because a lot of the units that could be on the team don't necessarily want to be around full movie bosses, but the team is still incredibly powerful and will take down anything put in front of it. It's access to support. You have the Broly, you have the other villain support, right? A lot of these units are also, especially the Broly variants of this team, a lot of them are on Planetary Destruction, so you have access to Turles support, and then, of course, the Super Easy A Broly support, so, right, it's a heavily supported team, so I definitely give it that. And then finally, I know this is gonna sound crazy, but actually, I put the movie 8 Trios team, right? Power of Wishes, All Out Struggle, and Super Saiyan's team along this tier as well. And that's because, right, of what they're doing, right? The Trios team is basically a team that allows you to bring any unit within their leader skill and see relative success. There's a few loss conditions, they themselves not being a great slot 1 unit, but the main thing that makes them work is what they're doing for the rest of the team, right? Who is in your slot 2 and your slot 3. They have really good slot 1 options. They have amazing support in of themselves, combined with access to Bulma support and other types of floating support, puts them really near the top for me. And in fact, if you wanted to move them up into the Z tier here, I wouldn't argue with you. I think there's a good option. It just, you'll see my explanation in a minute for the top 3 that I'm going to put up here. But realistically, you're going to see the same relative consistent success with the top teams that I'm putting in the A or the Z tier. The Z tier specifically, I think, stands above the other 3. So, again, the Movie 8 trio, access to their support, Bulma's support, access to some really, really powerful hitters, right? You have a revive in the Super Saiyan Blue Evolution Vegeta. You know, you have access to the Carnival Gohan. You have access to the Gogeta now. It's an incredibly powerful team that, I mean, in my runs with them, especially now that we have all of the big, all of the major components of the team together, I very rarely find myself dying with their team, right? Any variation of the team, I very rarely find myself dying. If things are scary, I pop their standby, or I pop Gohan standby, right? And now I have free slot 1 while, I work on getting healed up, so then I can bring out these guys, right? There's so many ways to counteract and counterplay for any negatives that might happen to this team, and that's kind of why I want to put them here. But I wouldn't argue putting them here either for that reason, and due to the amount of support that they're given. So, I mean, I might just leave them here. So, moving on, right? The moment you guys have been waiting for, the Z tier teams, right? Who are the best teams hands down in Dokkan? Well, before I get to that, I want to go ahead, we're going to add a row here. All right, we're going to throw in some honorable mentions here. So honorable mention goes to, and I put a lot of thought into this because literally up until Worldwide, this team was consistently getting buffs, and it was consistently on the verge of being one of the top tier teams in the game. It kept just missing one little piece, and then the game went full movie bosses mode again and kind of dropped the ball. But the team is still pretty good, and it was handling things, I mean, pretty much all the way up to Goku Frieza. It did struggle a little bit, but there was certain play that can make it work. And that is where is it? Right here. The Super Bosses team. Super Saiyan Rose / AGL Broly. I mean, you can throw them both in here. All right, both of these guys. It's kind of the same. It's kind of the same deal, right? Super Bosses team. It was almost there, right? Getting Cell Max kind of seemed like the light at the end of the tunnel, right? We were just about there to seeing this team really come into fruition, and they were doing really well with the events. Super Bosses, in fact, was my first clear against Super Saiyan Blue Evolution Vegeta with when that dropped during Tanabata with Cell Max, of course. It was kind of crazy to see how good the team was slowly becoming, especially after they buffed Rose. The main reason I can't put it anywhere on this list is, pretty much the lack of support, right? You have the Ent Golden Frieza, but I mean, unless you're running Broly's transformation boost version of the team, which is honestly the better version of Broly's team, but you don't really want two Brolys around, there's not really a whole lot of support going on for the team, so it's the main reason I don't place it any higher than an honorable mention. But I will say the team was almost there and can still get some, most content done right now. Now, the other team, and I know this is going to surprise a lot of people because the unit itself is so good. In fact, the unit itself probably has an argument for, the top unit in the game, but as a team, with him as the leader, I don't think it's that great of a team. It has a lot of powerful hitters. Some of them mesh well, but not all do. But, I mean, it's the problem of running two standby characters, right? And that is the STR Gohan's team, Kamehameha. You would think that Kamehameha would be such a powerful team. It always has been, right? You have the Gogetas, you have UI Gokus, you have the Brats, you have all these powerful units that seemingly should work together, but really don't. They're each doing their own little pocket thing. There isn't much in terms of support for the team other than the trio, but again, you run into the issue. So with him, you run into the issue of 2 standbys, and there's always especially if you're also going to throw the trio on there, right? That's at any given time, you only want one Gohan standby active, right? Which means the other Gohan, who honestly isn't that great defensively, is going to maybe have some issues, right? And then you combine that with the trio. The trio you probably don't want to stand by too often. In fact, when you're utilizing them, you're more often than not utilizing them for their support and their SA supports. But I mean, just 3 standbys on a team, not so good. 2 standbys on a team, not so good. Now, that's not to say that Gohan himself is bad. Again, I just think him as a leader, 200% Kamehameha, is probably not. I wouldn't place it way up here. You're gonna clear events, don't get me wrong. I don't think it flows as well as some of these other teams. And again, you're free to disagree with me. This is just my opinion on that team. So moving on, right? The top tier team. Okay, it's honestly a toss-up between any of these 3. So we'll start with this one here, right? The new Ant Broly's team. Uncontrollable power, revenge, and planetary destruction. This team is nigh unkillable, right? And even if it does, you have Ant Boo's revive, you have Broly's revive, you have a domain that basically, a lot of the bosses now have their own territory skills. Broly's domain being activated turn 1, no condition. I mean, that is a godsend for those events, right? Add to that he has Tech Broly on his team. He has Super Easy A Broly. He has Bio Broly. He has Janemba. He has crazy other supports, right? He has top hitting units in the game. Then the main reason I place him over the Tech Broly team variant is just because of his access to things like Buhan, which help out Janemba. To access to things like Kid Buu, to access to things like Int Buu, right? Like all of these things like really, really help push this team beyond just pure movie bosses, and that's why I put it up there next to them. Up next, right, we have Reps of Universe 7, right? Basically, superheroes light. This team, full Reps of Universe 7, is going to, I mean, just, it's gonna kill anything, right? UI Goku, AGL UI Goku, Blue Evolution, the crazy amount of support from LRU 7, right? 17 and Golden Frieza, who are nearly unkillable, provided you're utilizing them correctly, right? Access to some decent sub-easy A's, right? Like, I mean, crazy enough, this right here, and the Buu, and the Piccolo, where are they? Where's the Piccolo? Oh, he's not on Universal Survival Saga, but he is on the team. He's on Reps of Universe 7. I mean, they're just crazy units that work really, really well, even though they are sub-EZA, sub-options. Even the sub-options on this team are incredibly powerful. So, I mean, UI Goku's team, mainly focused on Reps of Universe 7, even having access to Jiren, makes it a powerful team and one of the best teams in the game. If you run this team, you are winning. No questions asked. If you run this team, you are winning. You have AGL UI, Dodge King, right? He might get hit on his first hit, but as long as he doesn't, after that, you're golden. Tech UI having an incredibly powerful active skill turn, where he transforms, he's untouchable, and he's countering like a god. It's just incredible team. So I would definitely place him up there. Moving on, of course, you should have all seen this coming. I think there's really still no argument for any other team above them, and that is superheroes, right? Again, Double Beast Gohan is probably the best team in the game. It can't be killed. Access to 2-turn target skills, access to UI Gokus, access to some really good support units. I mean, you're just doing oh so much, and nothing's getting past you. Even the hardest fights in the game right now, right? You make it to turn 3, you pop Beast Gohan, you're killing, not only are you going to kill that enemy by the next turn, but he's not touching anybody that turn. Beast Gohan still tanks those hits. Not really sure what people were doing with those crazy Twitter posts to show Beast Gohan taking damage from them, but every time I've used him and gotten to his active skill turn, he's not taking damage. Like, I've not had any issues with that, so I would just throw that out there. So these are probably the top 3 teams, top 4 even if you include the trio. Like I said, I wanted to put him in A tier, but now the more I think about it, they're probably up there just simply for the crazy things that they're doing for the rest of the team. They're probably up there too. So this is just kind of my list of the teams I think that are at the top. Any one of these teams can easily clear events with relative ease. You might have a few lost conditions here and there, but for the most part, these teams are getting through all of the hardest content, and so I kind of wanted to throw it out there like that. Again, this isn't looking at the units themselves solely, it's looking at the teams as a whole. I think that's really the best approach. So real quick before we head out, I just wanted to see some of your guys' responses to see what you guys said are some of the best teams, right? So we have True UI here on the community post mentioning Double and Broly is probably one of the team best in the team, right? I would agree, right? Double Broly being the Evo Vegeta of uncontrollable power keeps him safe with his domain, having access to 2. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay, Katsuki Bakugo, right? Fairly new, but currently running uncontrollable power, right? See, a lot of people are seeing that, right? Broly, he's just talking about careful with EZA Broly. Yeah, no joke. He does. You got to play around him, right? So Catch 93 mentioning, right, best teams are superhero mover bosses, uncontrollable power, right? So kind of seems like people are in agreement here. All right. Ichigo mentions the Carnival Gohan team. Again, I don't disagree. But again, my big issue with this team is having the basically triple standby here, and he mentions STR Vegito, who can be fun, but he has his own issues, right? Hard Striker throwing in here. The argument is less about best and worst teams, but what are the most fun teams for him? Broly bosses, movie 8 trio, superheroes. Okay, all right, nice. I do like that. I like how he mentions here with the movie 8 trio, versatility. That's the biggest thing for me with the movie 8 trios team, is how versatile they are. So want to kind of take a look here at what we said on Twitter, right? So we have Ichigo again saying the same thing. Chris mentioning the best team, the world tournament teams. I don't disagree with you. Okay, yep, UI Goku's team, right? Even with the Beast variant, I like it. Uncontrollable power, yes, okay. All right, UI Goku's team kind of having met. Transformation boost. See, I did mention that, right? Transformation boost from Int Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. That's definitely a top team, depending on how you build it, right? Looking at the Boo variant, there's the Broly variant of the team, right? It is actually quite powerful team, right? Movie 8 Trios team that with this setup, I would agree. This is a very top team, right? 154%. Like I said, Gohan slides more in under a leader skill than he does leading a team personally. So something like this would actually be a really powerful team. And again, that's also why I say the movie 8 trio probably deserves the place up at the top. So guys, that is my tier list. That is a big I'm taking a leap of faith here. This is just my opinion. Of course, if you disagree or you have a better placement for any of the teams I've mentioned here, feel free to drop your placement in the comments down below. I would love to hear your guys' arguments for the number 1 teams or any ranking of the sort, right? Do you agree with my placements? Would you move anybody around? Let us know in the comments down below. So guys, that is it for the video. If you liked the video, make sure you hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel channel if you have not already, and in the comments down below, don't forget to let us know your thoughts on the tier list. Otherwise, guys, as always, thanks for watching, and aloha.